Yasya palaya takshonim Yoyam satraya dikshitata. So repeatedly, itam bhuta, being thus. Anubhavaha, experience. Ayam, of this. Abhimanyu sutaha, son of Abhimanyu. Nripaha, the king. Yasya, whose. Palayataha, on account of his ruling. Shonim, on the earth. Yuyam, you all. Satraya, in performing sacrifices. Dikshitaha, initiated. So if we could have 3 recitations of the verse and some Matajis as well, please. Itam bhutano bhavoyam Abhimanyu suton nripa Yasya palaya takshonim Yuyam satraya dikshitaha Itam bhutano bhavoyam Abhimanyu suton nripa Yasya palaya takshonim Yuyam satraya dikshitaha Itam bhatano bhavoyam Abhimanyu suton nripaha Yasya palaya takshonim Yuyam satraya dikshitaha. Matajis, please. Itam bhutano bhavoyam Abhimanyu suton nripaha Yasya palaya takshonim Yuyam satraya dikshitaha. Itam bhatano bhavoyam Abhimanyu suton nripaha Yasya palaya takshonim Yuyam satraya dikshitaha. Translation by Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Maharaj Parikshit, the son of Abhimanyu, is so experienced that by dint of his expert administration and patronage, it has been possible for you to perform a sacrifice such as this. Purport: the Brahmanas and the Sannyasis are expert in the spiritual advancement of society, whereas the Kshatriyas or the administrators are expert in the material peace and prosperity of human society. Both of them are the pillars of all happiness, and therefore they are meant for full cooperation for common welfare. Maharaj Parikshit was experienced enough to drive away Kali from his field of activities and thereby make the state receptive to spiritual enlightenment. If the common people are not receptive, it is very difficult to impress upon the necessity of spiritual enlightenment. Austerity, cleanliness, mercy, and truthfulness, the basic principles of religion, prepare the ground for the reception of advancement in spiritual knowledge. And Maharaj Parikshit made this favorable condition possible. Thus the rishis of Naimisharanya were able to perform the sacrifice for 1,000 years. In other words, without state support, no doctrines of philosophy or religious principles can progressively advance. There should be complete cooperation between the Brahmanas and the Kshatriyas for this common good. Even up to Maharaj Ashoka, the same spirit was prevailing. Lord Buddha was sufficiently supported by King Ashoka, and thus his particular cult of knowledge was spread all over the world. Om Agyantimidandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Jaina Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Karamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Paran Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sutta Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Bhatitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Shriman Rasarasarambi Vamsi Vatatatashita Garshan Venu Svane Gopi Gopinata Shri Eshtanaha. So today we're going to talk about the punishment and reward of Kali. So this is a very important chapter in the Bhagavatam. It explains, it's broken up into different sections. Firstly, Maharaj Parakit comes along the situation where a Shudra dressed as a king is beating up a cow and a bull. So the bull is the son of Surabhi and the cow is Mother Cow, Vishnu was churning the milk ocean, and then Surabhi cow came out. She's the mother of all religion. So then in the second part is Maharaj Parakit has Kali in his crosshairs. He's ready to kill him. And then he's having a discussion with the bull and the cow. And then this final section is the surrender of Kali to Maharaj Parikshit. Because in Maharaj Parikshit's kingdom, not even the Devatas could escape the trial and tribulation of Maharaj Parikshit. So it's a very beautiful chapter. And in here previously, so Kali was having a conversation with Maharaj Parikshit and saying, well, okay, I need somewhere to reside. I understand I can't be in every house. So Maharaj Parikshit says, okay, wherever there's gambling, illicit sex, meat eating and intoxication, you have free reign to be present within that house. So Parikshit Maharaj gave him that benediction, and then at that time, in a previous yuga when Maharaj Parikshit was still alive, of course he's still alive now, however, so we have progressed into Kali Yuga. So those houses where gambling, illicit sex, intoxication and meat eating are present, Kali is also present. So Kali said, at this time none of those houses exist, so where do I go? And so Parikshit Maharaj said, okay, then when there's excessive gold, then you can reside there as well. Highlighting the importance in the Nectar of Devotion when Rupa Goswami and Sanatan Goswami, they took darshan of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu once, and therefore they entered the renounced order of life. Previously they were Dabir Akash and Shakira Malik in the Mohammedan government, working as government officials. And so when Rupa Goswami, he left his government post in the Mohammedan government, he decided that 50% of his wealth was to be given directly to Krishna, and 25% was to protect him against for his bodily requirements, and the other 25% was to be distributed to family and friends. So it's a very beautiful chapter with wonderful realizations. Then Srila Prabhupada reminds us in this chapter, however, the grihastas are allowed to accumulate some wealth, but the importance is not to be greedy and lusty after wealth and to focus on your bhajan and your chanting and the holy name of the Lord rather than, going for excessive wealth. So it's a very beautiful chapter, and I'm reminded by Gaura Govinda Goswami Maharaj. He always glorified the process of hearing before he gave Bhagavatam class. And he said, even in Srila Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita, it's explained that hearing is our most important activity. So what Srila Prabhupada has done for us, there's a transcendental Leela where Krishna climbs up a tree and he lowers the branch down for Srimati Radharani so she can jump up and grab the fruits of the tree. So what Srila Prabhupada has done for us, he's jumped up on the tree, lowered the branch down, so we just have to jump up and hear and chant the holy names of the Lord. So hearing is glorified. In actual fact, Parikshit Maharaj attained spiritual perfection purely by hearing. And he's the one person who's glorified as the one who heard the holy names of the Lord from Shukadev Goswami. And it's very important to realize that Shukadev Goswami was very qualified. So some of the shloka wallahs around, they think, okay, I understand a few slokas. However, Shukadev Goswami could recite the entire 1.4 million verses of the Mahabharata by mind, and they're all in Sanskrit, beautifully delivered. And then he did that before he felt qualified to speak on the Srimad Bhagavatam. And he also could recite 18,000 verses of Srimad Bhagavatam by rote memorization as well. So today, we're in the period of Bhishma Pankaja, so we will do some glorification of Bhishma Panchaka and Grandfather Bhishma as well, particularly from Canto 1, Chapter 9 of Bhagavatam. Srila Prabhupada explains the passing away of Bhishma Dev. And we'll also give a small glorification on Gorakishore Das Babaji, as his disappearance day was on Friday. And so we'll go into that in much more detail for sure. So essentially here, we're understanding who Parikshit Maharaj. He's the grandson of Arjuna. So his son is Abhimanyu. Very important not to be just, confused with the Abhimanyu, the so-called husband of Srimati Radharani, because there is Jatila and Katila kidnapped Radharani and then imprisoned her in Yavat. And then so her husband was Abhimanyu, also of the same name, but not of Maharaj Parikshit's father, Abhimanyu. So there's some wonderful Leela in Yavat where Srimati Radharani would not even let Abhimanyu inside her bedroom. However, having gone there on Parikram with His Holiness Indrajumni Swami, there is a place where Krishna could climb up the side of the wall and he could have association with Srimati Radharani at Yavat. So it's a very beautiful chapter. It reminds us about the importance of austerity, cleanliness, merciness, and truthfulness. So how are these qualities brought about and how are these qualities disturbed? So austerity is disturbed by intoxication. So you see people who drink a lot of alcohol or smoke cigarettes, then they lose their ability to be austere. They lose their ability to fast, they lose their ability to engage in any austerities. Even austerities of speech is difficult for an individual who consumes alcohol and smokes cigarettes. And then cleanliness, interestingly enough, is disturbed by excessive association with women. So it's important in this regard, if you look at the perfect renunciate, like Gorakishore Das Babaji, he's explained as Sakshat Vairagya, or the perfection of renunciation, and he never took any illicit association after his wife died. He took Babaji, which is very strict order, and then he never took that association. So therefore he was completely clean, despite the fact he was often in latrines chanting his 200,000 rounds of japa, as well as performing his various austerities. Very clean, purified by the products of the cow. And then mercy. How does one become mercy? So if there's animal killing present, then you literally cannot be merciful. So we look, it's explained by Srila Prabhupada Sama, Sarveshu Bhuteshu. So the those spiritual preceptors see everyone as equal. So inside every single person's heart is Krishna, so therefore there's no violence against any living entity, and then therefore you can display the condition of mercifulness. And truthfulness. So how does one become truthful? So that error, it comes about as a result of gambling. So you see often with people who are gambling a lot or taking excessive mortgages or taking out big loans, then perhaps they're not truthful in their family dealings or in their spiritual life at all. Okay, which brings us to the point of the passing of Bhishmadev. It's particularly chosen to speak on this in this regard because it is pleasing to Radha and Krishna to hear about Bhishmadev, his wonderful glorious qualities. And it is explained in Canto 1, Chapter 9 about the glories of Bhishmadev. And he's known as one of the 12 Mahajans. So we also have Shiva, Narada, Vasudev, Kapila, Kumara, Sukadev Goswami, and there's a whole list of 12 Mahajans, or those especially empowered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, of which Bhishmadev is one. So he took this time at the end of Kartik to fast in preparation of death. So then his passing into the next life is a very beautiful occasion where so many divine priests were there. Sukadev Goswami was there as well. Vasudev was there to see Bhishmadev pass into the next world. So he was lying on a bed of arrows. As a result, when he was a youth, he was given the benediction that he would choose when he would pass into the next world. So he wanted to see Krishna personally, and we're reminded by Srila Prabhupada in the Bhagavad Gita, those who fixate their eyes exclusively between the eyebrows and focus exclusively on Krishna will go to him. And so it's important to have that realization. And definitely Bhishmadev did have that quality as well. And so modern day, you do see wonderful enlightened saints like Gunagrahi Goswami Maharaj. He recently left his body in Vrindavan, and he was surrounded by devotees chanting the holy names of the Lord. So Bhishmadev got pure darshan of Sri Krishna, and then Gunagrahi Goswami Maharaj gets Krishna in the form of his name. Because in this age of Kali, we know Nam Nam Rupa Kali Kale Krishna Avatar. So Krishna is the sound vibration in this age of Kali. Gunagrahi Maharaj left a well in auspicious situation in the holy Dham. So for passing into the next world, time, place and circumstance is very important. And also Korma Rupa Prabhu, he established the Care for Cows Foundation, a very beautiful Goshala in Vrindavan, just on the outskirts of Vrindavan. And he also passed in very auspicious occasions on the Ekadasi preceding Kartik. So we see these wonderful, and obviously our Srila Prabhupada, he left during Kartik, and also Gorakishora Das Babaji left in November 19th, 1915. Gorakishora Das Babaji left this world to engage in his eternal pastimes in service of Gandharva Giridhari. So, and we see other wonderful saints leaving their bodies at this time. We saw Vrajaprama, who was a very loving, devoted servant of Srila Indrajumna Swami, and she left on the last day of Bhishma Panchaka at Radhakund. So the time, place and circumstance for these wonderful souls is very important. So Bhishmadev is lying in a bed of arrows, and it's explained he's in a lot of pain because he did have a big fight with Krishna. And so Krishna appeared in front of him, and it's explained that his hair is ashen coloured by the dust from the hoofs of the horses, because Krishna is explained as Partha Sarati, or the chariot driver. Still to this day at ISKCON Kurukshetra, we see Radha Partha Sarati worshipped very gorgeously there, with wonderful prasadam presentations and wonderful celebrations for all the festivals. So we do see Krishna as Partha Sarati. Bhishmadev is lying on his deathbed full of arrows, and then he sees Krishna, and it's a wonderful occasion because there's so many saintly persons there, there's so many devatas, and there's also the presence of the white cows. So even when we saw Korma Rupa Prabhu leaving his body at the Jamuna River, that was where his crematorium was to take place. We saw just some white cows become present as well. So, and also when Ayendra Prabhu, he left his body in Vrindavan Dham, and then he was being carried down to the Jamuna River, there was also like the cows following the procession. So that all these great souls have these wonderfully auspicious signs around them. And then so we ask ourselves, you know, Bhishmadev, he didn't stop Draupadi from being disrobed. He could have spoke that. He could have stood up and said, no, stop this. And Srila Prabhupada writes in that purport that, you know, demoniac things occur when saintly people say nothing. So Bhishmadev didn't do that, and Bhishmadev also was on the side of Duryodhana. So this poses the question, like if Bhishmadev is a Mahajan and he's leaving his body in a tremendously auspicious situation, do we worship Bhishmadev? Which indeed we do, because we have this Bhishma Panchaka. And the answer was Bhishmadev had unflinching faith in Krishna. So he knew that Krishna would come and save Draupadi. He knew that Krishna would help Arjuna defeat all the Kauravas on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, and so he had faith in Krishna. And it's a really interesting commentary in the Canto 1, Chapter 9, where Srila Prabhupada explains that Bhishmadev actually, so Maharaj Yudhisthira was to be enthroned as king now, that all the battle was destroyed, both armies, and so Maharaj Yudhisthira was to be made king. So Maharaj Yudhisthira is the son of Kunti, and she went through some tremendously difficult times, so many tribulations, having lost her own husband, Pandu. So she lost her husband, and she had a difficult time raising the children, and obviously they were doing engaged in so many tribulations. Firstly, they were banished for 12 years, then it was extended to 13 years, and so she had a very difficult life. And in the prayers of Queen Kunti, she's actually praying for more distresses. May more distresses come upon me such that I can be closer to Krishna. And that's exactly the point that Bhishmadev is making to Yudhisthira. He's saying this is actually really beneficial to facilitate that transcendental bhav or affection with Krishna. So we can learn from this example. When we're in difficulties, obviously our difficulties are minute in quantity relative to the massive nature of the suffering of these great souls. And indeed, Radhanath Swami explains that perhaps we should look at the example of Srimati Radharani and her suffering, and then we realize our suffering is only so minute and insignificant. And it's a wonderful situation where Bhishmadev is having this conversation, and he's reminding Yudhisthira that Krishna is actually time, or Kala, the time. And so all these things happen according to Krishna's plan, like clouds being blown by the wind. And so then Bhishmadev explains that we can't understand this. Brahma can't understand this. Shiva can't understand this. How are we to understand what Krishna's plan is? And even our Srila Prabhupada, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Srila Prabhupada, someone explained to Prabhupada, someone asked Prabhupada, should I have a plan? What should I do? And Prabhupada said famously, I have my plan, you have your plan, whatever Krishna wants will come to pass. So it's a very beautiful, and then so Maharaj Yudhisthira, along with Krishna and Arjuna and the sons of Pandu, they were all paying obeisances to Bhishmadev, and they were inquiring from him, how will we manage this kingdom? And so Bhishmadev is explaining in detail about Varnashram, the duties of the Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas and Shudras, the duties of the Sannyasis, Vanaprasthas, Grihastas and Brahmacharis, as well as the duties of women. And he explained they should be chaste to their husband, they should be engaging in worship and love of their husband, and also the duty of a disciple. And so he went through this big discourse, explaining that in detail. And then in the purpose of chapter 9, Srila Prabhupada explains about the glories of even Cleopatra. And she just had that one quality of shyness. And so she didn't like the excessive association with men, or, like she was just very quiet and shy in public situations. And that she was able to capture the attention of Julius Caesar, one of the greatest emperors in that Roman era. So Prabhupada is reminding us that and this is through Bhishmadev in that direct line, that females should demonstrate this quality of shyness. And actually the three characteristics that are present in Srimati Radharani are shyness, elusive, and contrary. This is explained by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. So those three characteristics should be present in all of the Vaishnavis. And so as we progress in this conversation, at that point in time the sun starts rising in the northern hemisphere. So not only did Bhishmadev choose a very auspicious place, being Kurukshetra, he also chose a very auspicious time, being just after Brahma Muhurta when the sun is rising, which is explained in various Puranas that if you were to leave during Brahma Muhurta, then the doors of Vaikuntha are open. for your body to leave. Also, it's explained that Bhishma Maharaj had perfect control of the 9 gates. So there are 9 gates: the eyes, the nostrils, the mouth, the genitals, and the anus, and the ears. So all these 9 gates are determined. So if you're a demoniac in personality, then the soul leaves through the genitals, and then for those highly advanced souls, they leave through the fontanelle of the head. So Bhishma Dev clearly left from the fontanelle of his head. And it's really interesting because around this time we're also hearing a lot about Srila Prabhupada's disappearance. And we were fortunate enough to hear a Hindi lecture where a doctor was, examining Srila Prabhupada as he approached his death. And then it was very clearly said that Srila Prabhupada has perfect control, which meant that often, at the time of leaving a body, people can lose their ability to control their bodily functions. So Srila Prabhupada had perfect control. Bhishma Dev had perfect control. Therefore the soul leaves from the fontanelle of the head. And so then perfect time and then perfect circumstance. So all these wonderful souls were present there for the passing of Bhishma Dev. Who better to be there? And not only that, and Krishna was also personally present. There was a battle between Bhishma Dev and Krishna. And Jiva Goswami explains when Krishna picks up the chariot wheel to hit Bhishma Dev, then when he ran, the whole world crumbled as a result of his steps. And so then it's explained, Jiva Goswami further goes on, that inside Krishna Krishna explains, all beings are in me, but I'm not in them. So that tells us that all beings reside within Krishna. However, he's not in them, and Prabhupada explains that means that he is aloof from his material creation. So Krishna is running towards Bhishma Dev with the chariot wheel, and then so this defies logic as well, because Krishna had previously promised that he wouldn't be engaged in the battle at all. And there's a beautiful class Srila Prabhupada gave in 1966 on the Bhagavad Gita about how Krishna promised he wouldn't be in the battle. There's a wonderful scene where Krishna is sleeping in bed and Duryodhana comes in through the door, sits right at Krishna's left, and then Arjuna, being the second one to arrive, sits at Krishna's feet. And then because they'd already arranged that a battle would occur. And then so Krishna opens his eyes and straight away Duryodhana talks and says, I was here first, therefore I have first right. And then so Krishna says, no, but I saw Arjuna first, so therefore I give first right to him. So the battle was already set to take place, and then Krishna presents to Arjuna, would you rather have all my infantrymen and all my soldiers, or would you rather have me on your side? And then so Arjuna says, I would rather have you. This is the mood of the devotee. I want to be with Krishna. I want to have him present in my life. I want to chant his holy names. Therefore, Arjuna says, I want to have you. And Duryodhana, he would have chosen the soldiers and the infantrymen already. So this swelled Duryodhana's army to 18 oxahinis of soldiers, and then Arjuna's army was only 12 oxahinis of soldiers. However, he had Krishna. But then Duryodhana made Krishna promise, you will not enter into the battle. So this Krishna, by breaking his promise, shows us how important it is to protect his devotees. So Bhishma Dev had 5 arrows, of which each one was intended for each one of the Pandava brothers. And so on the battlefield, each one was set to kill each one of the Pandava brothers. And so in these battles, they'd often have, like, a conch shell would be blown to start proceedings at the day, and at the end of the day, no more battling was to occur. And often there was conversations between the members of either party. And so in this battle, Duryodhana is chastising Bhishma, and he's saying, why are you showing so much affection for your pet grandsons? I gave you the order to kill them. You have the arrows, therefore kill them. And so Bhishma Dev is showing affection because it's his daughter-in-law, Kunti, who lost her father. Therefore, there's a better role for the father, as well as they are indeed his grandsons, who they already had so many tremendous difficulties and difficult situations. So it was in his mind that perhaps he should protect them. And so therefore he was showing some inability to shoot the arrows. However, at that night he then took the vow, okay, from tomorrow I will shoot all the 5 arrows to all the 5 Pandava brothers. At which point in time Krishna went to Arjuna and said, okay, now you need to have a conversation with Duryodhana, and because he promised you that he will give you anything that you want. And so there's 5 arrows set to kill each one of the Pandava brothers. So go there and ask Duryodhana for each one of the 5 arrows. And so Arjuna goes to the hut of Duryodhana, and then so Duryodhana relinquishes the 5 arrows which are set to kill the 5 Pandava brothers. And so the passing of Bhishma Dev is auspicious. He controlled all his 9 gates. He left with the fontanelle of his head. And it's a very wonderful pastime. And it concludes with, and then Yudhisthira is now enthroned as the king. And he's explained as having the opulence of Kuvera and his Gandakas, or his associates of Kuvera. Kuvera is the treasurer of the entire universe. And so then when Maharaj Yudhisthira was there, he had the beautiful white horses, perfect gold embossments of his attire. And Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So, and then right at the end, then Maharaj Yudhisthira was reminded that perhaps it was now his duty to take care of Dhritarashtra and Gandhari. So Gandhari took up the vow that she would remain blind by being blindfolded. And so this is the true king. He doesn't hold any grudges. He doesn't, and there's automatic forgiveness, which is one of the 9 important things that Maharaj Yudhisthira was passing on to Maharaj Yudhisthira, who was explained. The first one is do not become angry ever for no reason. The second one is always be truthful. And the third one is guarantee protection for the innocent. And the fourth one, distribution of wealth. And then there's a number of other ones, and it also means protection of those who are subordinate to you or servants. So that was the information. And then so within those categories, he obviously had to take care of Dhritarashtra and Gandhari. Okay, so now brings us across to the glorification of Gorakishora Das Babaji. So as we mentioned before, he's explained as Sakshat Vairagya, which means he's the perfection of renunciation. So in 1846, he lived in Faridpur and he was married. So he was a grain merchant. So he wasn't educated in any material sense, and he earned his livelihood in Faridpur by distributing grains. And so in Faridpur at that time, it was surrounded by a whole lot of Muslim villages. So their bhajan and their sadhana, obviously Gorakishora Das Babaji mean Nitya Siddha. He practiced his spiritual life from birth. And so he had to do it very much in private because there was a lot of oppression by the Muslim with Faridpur. And so after his wife died, then he left. So it's mentioned by Srila Prabhupada, when the husband dies, the wife feels so much separation from her husband that she would jump in the fire herself. Literally, so in the crematorium grounds, in the Vedic culture of past, there was so much attachment between husband and wife that the wife would jump in the fire. And then Srila Prabhupada explains later on that this has been degraded in this age when then they started throwing the wife in the fire, which is not to be replicated at all. And then what does a man do when when his wife leaves? So he enters into the fire of renunciation. So from Faridpur, I looked it up to Vrindavan, it's 1,507 kilometers, which it's explained it would take 289 hours to walk because Gorakishora Das Babaji would walk there, which is 12 days continuous, or he may have had breaks along the way. So, and then Gorakishora Das Babaji was eternally searching in that mood of Vipralamba Seva. So he'd sing, Kota ga prema mayi, radhe radhe, radhe radhe go jaya, radhe radhe. So this is a very beautiful bhajan glorifying Srimati Radharani, and he's saying, O Queen of ecstatic prema, Kota go prema mayi, radhe radhe, where are you? And then he's explaining, oh, the crest jewel of the Astasakis, where are you? O daughter of the divine King Vrishabhanu, where are you? Oh, I cannot maintain my life heir together, where are you? So this is the prayer, and for 22 and a half hours a day, Gorakishora Das Babaji was in this mood, wandering around. And so he set up residence in Varshana, and then he traveled around. He went to Radhakund, Suryakund, spent some time at Govardhan as well, and he did bhajan in Vrindavan for 30 years. So he was left Grihastha life at 1846, and then he died in 1915, November 19th. So there was 30 years spent in Vrindavan, and then the remainder 39 years he left to go to Navadvip. And so he was very renounced, and he had this ability whereby even if he had to collect Madhukari, so the Babaji, and it's very important to remember that Bhaktivinoda Thakur said it's actually illegal to accept Babaji before an individual attain the stage of Bhav. So Bhav, in the 9 processes of Bhakti, Bhav has to be present before an individual can take Bhakti. So the preliminary stages of Prema, so hair standing up in the air, perspiring, voice trembling, those sort of ecstatic symptoms have to be present, which they were present with Gorakishora Das Babaji. And so the disciplic line is Jagannath Das Babaji, and then Bhagavat Das Babaji, and then Gorakishora Das Babaji. So they all took that Babaji initiation. And so Gorakishora Das Babaji, he was explained like a bee going from house to house. So you'd only have 1 to 7 grihastha houses that you could go to and then beg for madhukari. So whatever came, he would eat. So often it was just parched rice, which he would mix with water from the Jamuna or Radhakund, and then just take that very simply. Or often, one time he was given just a raw eggplant, and so then he was sitting on the banks of the Radhakund and he was praying, he was saying, Gauranga, please accept this. I have no facility to cook this. Please accept this raw eggplant. And so then he left it for a while for Gauranga Mahaprabhu to taste, and then it was meant, they visibly saw when Gorakishora Das Babaji took this raw eggplant, then he was in absolute ecstasy, calling out the names of Radhe Radhe, Kotoga Prema Mai, Radhe Radhe, Radhe Radhe Go Jaya, Radhe Radhe. So he was in total ecstasy and total absorption in the holy names 22.5 hours a day. And so Gauranga Mahaprabhu accepted his prasadam. That reminds us that patram pushpam palam tayam. So even if you offer a leaf, a flower, fruit, or a glass of water with love, so love has to be there, and then Lord Chaitanya will accept it. So it's very beautiful, and oftentimes there was no food from his begging. So he would get some mud and clay from Radhakund and pick it up, and just to fill his stomach, he would eat the dirt of Vrindavan, the dirt of Jamuna river, to sustain his life. And there's other interesting pastimes where a doctor came to, by that time he'd already gone to Navadvip, and a doctor said, I'm going to establish a health clinic here and give free health advice and medications to all the residents of Navadvip. And then so Gorakishora Das Babaji said to him, like, what are you doing? Like, why engage yourself in this useless activity? Why not just tell him to surrender to Hari Bhajan and chant the holy names of the Lord? So he didn't have this ability to think in a material sense. Often people thought of him as very, very eccentric and quite crazy because he was like in the madness of separate. That's Vipralambra Seva. So Gorakishora Das Babaji, he also he was approached by a married man, because by that time they realized he's Mahabhagavat, okay? He's continuously chanting the holy names of the Lord. He's doing 200,000 names of the Lord every day, which is 128 rounds. So, you know, people are approaching him for blessings. He's also a Kinchana, which means he's completely dependent on Krishna. He had no, you know, like backup plan or no safety net. He was just completely dependent on Krishna, Kinchana. And so people were going to him for materialistic benedictions. Indeed, one wealthy mercantilist came to, you know, Gorakishora Das Babaji and said, here's a coin, use it if you need it. And then so he didn't understand that because he saw everyone as his spiritual master. So he carried around this coin on the top of his head, and it ended up being like a whole year. And then this mercantilist came back, and then he took it off his head, literally like taking his bath in his bhajan with this coin on top of his head, and then he gave it back to the mercantilist, and he said, I have no use for this. So he was very renounced, the perfection of renunciation. And it was wonderfully explained that a married man approached Gorakishora Das Babaji, and he said, please give me the benedictions and please give me some blessings. And so Gorakishora Das Babaji said, a Vaishnava wife is very rare. You have to realize that she is the servant of Srimati Radharani, not your servant, so you should love and worship her and adore her and take her remnants. That was the instruction Gorakishora Das Babaji gave to a married man. And so it progresses on, whereby to this day now you see at the Chaitanya Gaudiya Mat in Mayapur. They've set up a Radhakund there, and there's also the Samadhi of Gorakishora Das Babaji. And it's explained that the particular benediction that Gorakishora Das Babaji Maharaj can bestow upon us is protection from Maya. So Maya and her elusive potencies, if we're feeling, oh, maybe my rounds aren't good, I'm not associating with devotees, I'm desiring prasadam outside of, temple situation, then perhaps, we take shelter of, you can offer a lamp to Gorakishora Das Babaji, you can circumambulate his samadhi. Also his Pushpa samadhi is at Radhakund in Vrindavan, at Radhakunja Bihari Gaudiya Mat as well. So there's the samadhi and the Pushpa samadhi of Gorakishora Das Babaji. He's also glorified because he only gave Diksha to one person, which is Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj. And so, because in Godruma Dweep, he used to attend the class of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He attended his Srimad Bhagavatams very religiously and very lovingly. And so after that loving exchange, he decided to give initiation to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And then, however, he was so humble that he only ever mentioned him as my Prabhu. So Bhaktisiddhanta would approach him and he'd say, my Prabhu, Bhaktisiddhanta. So he had this belief that he was completely fallen and he was superior to no one, not even any living entity. It was explained that even the cows, the deers, the trees, all the creepers, even the ants of Vrindavan, he would pay obeisance to and just be very loving and have loving relationships with them. And so Gorakishora Das Babaji also demonstrated a number of other qualities. So perhaps if we just say, Gorakishora Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. And so around this time, I decided to do a bit of try to understand what was Srila Prabhupada doing at this particular point in time. So I went into Srila Prabhupada's Lilamrita and I found, interestingly enough, on November 19, 1966, which is exactly 51 days after the passing of Gorakishora Das Babaji, Srila Prabhupada decided to introduce the residents of 2nd Avenue, because obviously Srila Prabhupada had travelled to America under the direct instruction of his spiritual master, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and he established 2nd Avenue there, with the most notable early contributions coming from Brahmananda and Satsvarup Das. At that time now he's Satsvarup Goswami Maharaj. So they each were earning $600 a month in their government jobs as teachers, and they gave that all to Srila Prabhupada, to pay the rent at 2nd Avenue, which it was explained Prabhupada had a landlord there. His name was Mr. Chuti, and he had a big beer belly, and he was Polish. And so Mr. Chuti would often come into the ashram and the temple, and he wouldn't take his shoes off. And Prabhupada said, this is okay, not enforcing any scriptural regulations on him or anything. And so, because the kirtans often got quite loud and raucous, the residents in the upside building would often pour water down, and so the water would fall down on the devotees while they're singing Hare Krishna. And then at that time they'll think, oh, it's the flowers from the demigods raining upon us. And it was a beautiful situation whereby Srila Prabhupada didn't enforce things too heavy in the beginning, because he was there for 4 months. He had observed the Chaturmas of Vrat in 2nd Avenue. So that means no travelling around. He stayed exclusively in one place, and he made 19 initiated devotees who were very serious at that time, and they were reading Mahabharat, and it was explained that the breakfast of choice was heavenly porridge, which meant they got oats and the syrup from the gulab-jamans, as well as the fruits and the nuts, and they cooked that up and they called it heavenly porridge, in line with that was the name used in the Mahabharat as what they were eating in those times as well. And you also got one ISKCON bullet. So it was explained by Satsvarup Goswami Maharaj that these breakfast situations were actually quite intoxicating and you'd had Prabhupada's association. Srila Prabhupada made them chant 1 round together, and then they'd taken a vow to chant 16 rounds. However, it was 1 round in the association with Srila Prabhupada, and then the rest of the rounds they could complete in their own time. So you had there Kirtanananda, Brahmananda, Satsvarup, Jadurani, Hayagriva, and there was a number of other devotees as well. And so then on this day, November 19th, 1966, Srila Prabhupada comes down with a red book. And so it was the first time Srila Prabhupada introduced Chaitanya Charitamrita to the devotees on November 19th. And so such was their naivety, they didn't even understand what Chaitanya, they understood Chaitanya, they'd heard Srila Prabhupada speak about him before, and then Srila Prabhupada gave the instruction to Jadharani to actually paint pictures of Lord Chaitanya, and she did this by the simple beginner's method of painting by sectioning the photograph into sections in horizontal and vertical lines, and then drawing the painting from that. And then so Satsvarupa explains often that it was a little bit disproportionate as a result of her only just beginning to paint. And then she became a very qualified painter later on with wonderful artwork. So it's amazing, that situation, and Srila Prabhupada introduced the devotees to Sanatana Goswami. That was the first class Srila Prabhupada gave on Chaitanya Charitamrita outside of Bharatvarsha or India. So he's talking about Sanatana Goswami, and then Jadharani writes in her diary, Sonotan. So she couldn't understand the pronunciation of Sanatana Goswami. And then so Prabhupada tells the story about Sanatana Goswami being locked in jail. Rupa Goswami was able to escape with his gold coins, and then Sanatana Goswami was locked in jail. And then so they're on an edge of their seat. The devotees explained, oh, what's going to happen to Sanatana Goswami? Because Prabhupada broke it up into sections. The first day, establishing Sanatana Goswami is locked up in jail. The second day, they were revealed, okay, Sanatana Goswami was able to become free from the clutches of the Muslim imprisonment, and Sanatana Goswami did this because in Muslim Shastra it's explained if you help someone to get to the point of self-realization, then you personally will be benefited yourself. So Sanatana Goswami recited this to the Muslim jailer, as well as the inducement of saying, okay, my brother has many gold coins, of which I will give you 7 gold coins if you allow me to leave. So they left the jailhouse, and then they stopped overnight in a tavern, because it's quite a long walk from the Mohammedan government into Vrindavan. And they stopped overnight, and then at which point Sanatana Goswami saw an astrologer, and she saw on his palms, hey, there's a whole lot of wealth in your palm here. So we need to check his belongings, and so they took the vow that they were going to kill him. But being a wonderful devotee, Sanatana Goswami, being very dedicated to waking up early in the morning, Nidra Chayi Uto Jiva, so stop sleeping in the lap of Maya, get up out of this lap and wake up early in the morning. Sanatana Goswami woke up early and therefore escaped a death, and he was able to fulfill his promise of giving 7 gold coins to the Muslim. And then he made his journey to Vrindavan, where there's beautiful pastimes. The teachings of Lord Chaitanya to Rupa Goswami and the teachings of Lord Chaitanya to Sanatana Goswami are very beautiful literature to help us to understand the mood pervading Lord Chaitanya and his relationship with Rupa and Sanatana Goswami respectively. And then it's also important to realize, just going back a step to Gorakishore Das Babaji, his eternal form is that of a manjari, which he's explained as Guna Manjari, in the eternal pastimes of Radha and Krishna in Goloka Vrindavan. So we've covered today the glorious death and passing of Bhishmadev, and in Jayapataka Maharaj he explains that the first level of fasting is to obey the rules of the first day you take only just cow dung, second day is cow urine, third day is cow milk, fourth day is yogurt, and then the fifth day is panchagavya, which is a mixture of all of those of substances. And so that's level 1. Level 2 and below is more like an ekadasi fast, whereby if you've eaten grains, some devotees are very dedicated throughout Kartik, where they say, okay, no grains for Kartik. Then if you've eaten grains in Kartik, you can do some penances by no grains or ekadasi fasting for the last 5 days. I remember Ramai Swami gave class here, and he was explaining about how the 5 days, last days, are the most beneficial, the most rewards, because Krishna is Bhakta Badham, which means he reciprocates with his devotees. So Mother Yashoda loves Krishna, and Krishna loves Mother Yashoda. So there's reciprocation. And Krishna is also Bhakta Vatsal, which means he becomes his devotee's servant. And we saw this most when Mother Yashoda is binding Krishna with the rope, and also when Krishna becomes Parthasarati, the chariot driver of Krishna. So it's a very beautiful chapter. We've got a lot to look forward to in the next chapter and continuing verses of the Srimad Bhagavatam. But we're a little bit over time now, and so the takeaways, what can we take away from this? Okay, so austerities are pleasing to Krishna. We saw, and obviously we don't want to jump to such a high level and think, okay, I'm only going to eat the mud from Radhakund. However, we can take little steps in our austerity. We can take little steps in our cleanliness, such as reducing the association. Illicit connection with women can be reduced, therefore we can become clean. We can become more austere. We can become more truthful. We do that. No gambling. We become more truthful. We engage in all these in order to benefit our lives, for sure. And then another takeaway is, if we are under the influence of Maya, then we can just get a photo of Gorakishore Das Babaji, his samadhi, and then we can do some prayers there and beg him that we may be free from the clutches of Maya. And so, thank you so much for listening. I apologize sincerely if I was unable to convey the message appropriately. I beg forgiveness if I committed any offenses along the way. And all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki. Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda ki. Jai Jai Shri Radhe Gopinath. Jai Haribol.